Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Brogan, and today we're back for another trading stream. Now, I noticed last stream, aka yesterday, my mic was cutting in and out and doing all these things, and I've changed some settings. I don't know if it is fully better, so hopefully it is. Hopefully it's not sounds awful or anything like that, but I've started a timer. Alright, we're going to get to business here. Okay, we're professionals on the stream, we're professionals at Crypto Warehouse, so we're not going to dilly-dally. I'm going to get straight into it, okay? Hopefully you're all doing well. I'm on Square Live YouTube. I have a Square chat up, I have the YouTube chat up, so hello to you all on every platform. Hopefully you guys have had a good day so far, or have had a good morning if it's a morning, afternoon, all those sorts of things. But I'm not going to dilly, like I said. I'm going to get straight into it. Currently on 112,447 on Bitcoin. 0.29% up 24 hour. The 1 hour again only just changed like 3 minutes ago, so not really much there, and 0.13 on the 7 day. I think we've basically come up to the main resistance points. The old order block we've kind of come below, and we have some resistances on our way down the 4 hour. I did look at the 1 hour, I believe mostly on last stream because I was just looking at a lower time frame, but I'm going to be looking at the 4 hour and whatnot today, just so we can see a bit more of a wider time frame. 4488 on Ethereum. I think I was talking about us potentially going up again. Obviously I want to see how that's going, which I was saying last stream was I think we could have potential to score up one more last time, but I want to see how we go, so I want to wait till Thursday to see what we might do. So I will also give a re-update on that. I'm quite interested actually in how Ethereum's going. We have obviously seen ourselves go above the all-time high once already, and seen these pushes quite high. So I'll be very interested to see if we're what we're doing so far. And Solana 21153. That's pretty good for Solana. Really good actually. I think we were talking about 220 as one of our main prices. Again, obviously, we've been breaking past highs for Solana, so no surprise that we're kind of coming up like this. I think so far we're doing pretty well. I haven't looked at the Ethereum chart. I've looked at Bitcoin. Obviously, Solana, I think I know what we're doing anyway. I haven't looked at the Ethereum chart. I do want to look at Syrup quickly. 43.6. I think we're actually come up. I don't know if we were hitting close to the low. We might have. I'm not sure. 25th. We were getting close. We've come up a bit more again. I can't remember what the exact prices are for Syrup, but again, we're still on the lower end for Syrup. Sui, I want to quickly look at as well. 345. That's not bad. Again, we've been looking at $3.15, $3.10 certain prices and stuff like that. We've been continuing coming downwards, and then CRO has had a bit of a move down. We did come very high. Actually, have come up again now. If we go to the daily, actually, we can see we've had this whole run up. I was talking about, I was off, I'm not gonna lie. I was talking about 28.5 cent or something like that. Okay, we could maybe see 28.5 cent. We had a one massive rip up all the way to there. I'm very interested to see how CRO's doing, and what we've done so far, because it's been absolutely insane for CRO's move. So very happy with that regardless. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Let's jump onto the chart. So again, I was on an old chart, and then I realized just before I started the stream, and I realized I drew new TA on a different chart because I didn't like how much crap we had on the other chart. So regardless, I've re-updated on the new chart, and I drew a new range on the 4 hour here for the higher time frame, so you can clearly see it a bit better. What we were mainly talking about was this last candle here. So we can see we had this down candle on the 16th of June. And then we had this, massive pump upwards, and we can see in this move upwards and then move down, we came back towards this order box. We can see we kind of came up, we kind of came down, back up in, back into it, and then came down. And then obviously this candle, we found support, we used it here as well, and came up. So we formed support in this move, and then used it here, and then formed another support in this little candle on the 1st of July, and then used that with this, and then obviously subsequently came upwards. So we're coming back down to these areas. So for one, anyway, I can look at. This is going to be support, this last down candle. This is also going to be support, which we're using now. So again, it kind of cascades upwards, which we've alluded to multiple times already in different scenarios. We have obviously that candle. We have this candle. Which you can see we're coming towards that midpoint as well. I'm not going to keep them on the screen because they are pretty ugly, but we can see we're coming down. And the main thing as well on last stream was the difference for Bitcoin, because we were coming to the support point. And what I was saying on the last stream was, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a bit of more of a longer term support point soon, and start to creep back upwards a tiny bit more for Bitcoin towards some of this higher time frame areas. because we are obviously coming to this wider time frame support. You know, I think we could spend a bit more longer down into this area, but we are coming to a support point, so we could expect to see a bit of usage there. But regardless of the intricacies of where the support point is, we do have this singular the top of this support anyway over here, which we have clearly kind of wicked into, maybe a couple $100 off, and used it, and now we've started to come back upwards again. But the main, on the 4 hour, we've had this massive move downwards from, you know, this move. You know, we had this move downwards, and then we've come upwards, found this high, for example, which we used. We also had, I think it was a daily gap we used here, came downwards. Obviously, you have a new range now. Again, we're ranging downwards. We're just aiming towards, basically the idea is, I've said it so many times, you aim towards equilibrium, and then once you come to equilibrium, you want to watch to see if you're going to use it as support or resistance in this case, or whatnot. So the areas I have focused, we have obviously the main gap here. I wanted to draw the range of this move downwards because it is pretty apart. Actually, I am going to zoom it down to this area, to be fair, because that is where the gap actually sits. But you know, just the general range we have coming downwards for this move. Obviously, we have this down move here. We have this candle, which could also be resistance, but we have this last green candle, which comes up into this massive candle and then pumps down, and we can see this last candle will form resistance as well. In this move, it actually probably should be better sat with this instead as the main as the entire candle, to be fair. But regardless, it's the last candle before this move downwards has resistance. You can see as we are moving downwards, we are using this as resistance in this area. Obviously, starting to come back upwards now. And then the main thing for me as well is we have this old candle here, which we did use as support once, come upwards again. Now we've reversed it. This is now going to be resistance, where you can see we've used it as support, come upwards, found, you know, gaps or XYZ. You know, we have the main range here, for example, which we filled. XYZ, we've already talked about this on previous streams. Came down, pushed below this resistance, and now we are going to be using this as resistance as well. So, or came below support, now using resistance. So, even though, you know, on the 4 hour we can't see that as clearly, based on what we have on the daily, and based that even that the equilibrium of this range is also sitting at the midpoint of this kind of support resistance point, which we have obviously used previously, you can see here, and we've used here. We are also at that point now, with the equilibrium being at that point. So I would expect Bitcoin relatively soon to potentially see some sort of high, and that's why I drew not only this range but also this gap, because again, you know, we can come deeper, we can come higher, and the high point of this resistance is looking like it's at this gap. And we do also have some equal highs here with these two candles at 1.13689. So we could, you know, even though this is resistance, we could come to the top of this, we could wick past this towards these equal highs and this gap here and fulfill this towards about 113.6, 114 if we were to do that. But I do think within this relative $500 range, I would expect, or maybe even $1,000 range, whatever this is, I would expect Bitcoin to continue upwards a bit more. If we go to the 15 minutes, we are actually coming down, but we have you know, a massive void area. This isn't just individual gaps, this is a massive void. So if I actually draw a rectangle here, we can see this whole area has not been come back into, and we can see we come to this midpoint here. What I do want to do though is draw a range on the 15-minute, and we can see it does come a bit deeper. So I could expect us to come, as we're in this downtrend on the 15-minute and on the lower time frames, as we're coming down and we've come to a bit of resistance, it does look like we are aiming towards fulfilling some of this gap we've produced on the 15-minute, and obviously midpoint to about 112.173. So I could expect price to come down a bit. As we can see as well, we are expanding downwards and having very small retracements upwards. So I would expect another expansion downwards some point soon in the next, you know, hour. Probably looking like we could aim towards the bottom of this gap, or bottom of this void, even towards this individual at about 111.15, 111.600. Whichever price it is exactly, and then probably continue from there as we are continuing downwards. Because yes, we are printing past lows and whatnot and doing lower highs, lower lows, so we are on a downtrend. But obviously, if we go to like the 1 hour, let's say, you know, we've had a bit of a hoverage, again coming down towards these areas. Probably, you know, again in this normal trend, you can see we did the same thing here. We kind of hovered a bit, had an expansion downwards, found a new higher low, and then came upwards again to find resistance. Probably doing the same thing again, as I am saying, again taking out these highs on the way upwards, we've done the same thing here. Once we take out that high, it's aiming backwards to see where we find resistance. And obviously in this case, we have come to equilibrium. We have found resistance in the main area we have on the daily. And then, okay, cool, we've produced the high. Now we're going to be looking to do a higher low unless we reverse hard. And I don't think we do that. Again, the 15-minute, we have a massive expansion. On the 1 hour, you can see this is a massive expansion. So I don't think we're going to fully reverse this. So I would expect us to find another low in this range and then probably aim for the highs again. And once we aim for the highs again, we're getting very close to 113.6. But, you know, we are only just about getting above equilibrium now, so we are probably very close to the position where we should look for a max high. And then if we zoom out a bit, we can see like the main thing we're focusing on is we don't really have much of a trend here. This is the trend, and now instead of us focusing on us being in an uptrend and finding the highs, we are on the 4 hour in a downtrend, aiming for this lower high in some sort of range here and then coming downwards. So on the lower time frames, obviously looks like we are in this uptrend and we are doing our thing, and yes, we are doing that on the lower time frame. But I think this is just in an uptrend until we see otherwise. So I think that otherwise for us is going to be these equal highs here and this gap as we are, you know, coming upwards a bit more. I could expect us to see a bit of resistance at this 114 mark, you know, similar to how we saw here. You know, we kind of came, you know, we saw resistance at the midpoint, we came down one more time to find resistance at the bottom end of things, and then obviously we pumped. We could do the same thing where we have, you know, come upwards to find the midpoint, found a bit of resistance, we're going to come down a bit again, like I said, towards 111.5, 111.6, and then push up one more time towards the top end, which obviously fulfills this gap, takes out these highs, and then we could maybe continue to push downwards even further. But I think the main thing for me for Bitcoin is definitely the fact that we have printed past these lows, which I have talked about previously, and this is going to be resistance. So I do think on the wider time frame, probably on the you know, coming towards the daily, I would expect us to find resistance at this 111.9 area. So even though we only have, you know, a few hours left, I would expect this to be main resistance. But regardless, we do have this main order block as well. So and the thing is about this is it's a breaker block, so it's not just this low, it's the entire candle. So not only is it this candle, it is also this candle as well, the last low candle. So I will draw that across as well. We can also see it's very messy. I'm going to delete this in a second. We can see the midpoint gets pushed up a bit higher towards 113, nearly 113.5, very close to 113.6. So I do expect maybe a bit more push up on the daily, as we can see. But again, I think the main takeaway is definitely going to be us continuing downwards for Bitcoin as we've been doing so far anyway. So I do expect us to see resistance in this, you know, general, you know, $1,000 range, sitting between these gaps and whatnot, and these equal highs here. But yeah, I mean, we are continuously printing these gaps. We are continuously coming upwards and using some of these areas of support. So for example, we had the last down close before the move upwards. We can see this is an order block here. We take the candle, we can see we came to the midpoint of this last down close before this move upwards. This is also going to be actually, it's going to be probably this one, the lowest down close before the move upwards, and this will also be support, as we can kind of see we are using on this other candle as well. So we're going to have support at that area as well. But you know, it's kind of a thing where this is the lowest point we produced before we pumped. You can see this is the lowest low for a negative, a down close candle anyway, the lowest candle. If we draw that across, we can see we came into it and used it. If we use this candle, for example, lowest down close before the move upwards, we can see we use this as well with this wick. So this one's actually the lowest down close. So again, also having support around that 111.6 area as well, which also sits very close to that gap area. So I think in general, we probably are going to see some sort of support, you know, on the lower time frames anyway. We're going to see some sort of support soon within this 111.8 area. I probably might see Bitcoin having one last push upwards towards this area, but we're getting very close to the point where I think we should probably expect Bitcoin to see a lower high for this downtrend we've been having this entire time. We're having this massive downtrend. I do expect Bitcoin to see its lower high quite soon, and then push past 108.7 towards this longer term support point we have here. Now, I don't think this is going to be, if we go to the daily anyway, obviously this is produced on the weekly, but in terms of what we're doing, again, we are definitely starting a downtrend. Now, the difference is, I think, for me, is if we look at this period behind us, we started a downtrend, fine, but what stopped us was the fact we had these gaps, these gap candles, as we've talked about previously. Obviously, we had wicks, which we came past, but, you know, in general, we had this massive gap area. If I just draw the general area as a whole, just so as an example, we can see we had this area here. We've obviously come to fill some regard of this area, but obviously we're going to want to realistically just look at the individual candle here, and you can see we filled the rest, the full of this and then pumped. But the difference, I think, going on to my point, was we have obviously this downtrend, you know, quite similar to what we're doing now in terms of, obviously we've started, you know, we had this high push, and now we've come down, and now we've printed past here, again expecting a move upwards, and then probably coming down, finding some support point, obviously in this area, probably pushing up higher again. So we are clearly starting a bit of a downtrend in this regard, again, especially printing past this low. I think the difference between this move and this move is we had this gap area which stopped us from continuing downwards. Because again, I say this every stream, pretty much, or it seems like every stream, that obviously markets, if they're going up or down regardless, they continue a movement until proven otherwise, or until there's reason to stop. So obviously in this regard, in terms of this whole range, on the individual candles, we can see we have this candle here. We filled this last candle, and I'll come. But again, we already have resistance on the daily and reason to stop. Especially that we had this. And this is why it's a breaker block, where you take this high and then take the low. This last lowest candle is going to be resistance. So I definitely think this 113, 114 is going to be resistance. I'm pretty confident, obviously not financial advice, that this candle order block, which obviously we have used as support before, is, you know, an official, you know, it is going to be resistance now. You know, because again, there's strengths. You know, you can reverse support to be resistance, but in this regard, when you take these highs and then take the lows and have this massive move which pushes past a support point, I do believe this is now going to be a strong resistance point. But anyway, coming down from here, we do have support on the higher time frames, but in terms of a major, if it goes to the weekly, you know, yeah, this is going to be support, but in terms of a major, and okay, let me actually finish this point. On the weekly, yes, we're probably going to push down towards this 103k area. And yes, this is going to be support. And on the weekly anyway, we are obviously leaving behind gaps at 115 and whatnot. And we will probably continue to do that up until 103, let's say. But we probably will have a weekly retracement towards this 110k area, 111k area. We probably will push up past this area. But I think it will still be us continuing downwards. And, you know, if you look at the entire trend, as in, you know, we have this low to this high, this low to these highs over here. And then if you take it as we have this high to this low, where we have, you know, up, down, and then we wick past this high and we fail to get above it. Now that we're printing past this low, even on the weekly, we are printing down past this uptrend. So I do think, and, you know, again, and this is what I have done on previous streams as well, where, yes, okay, on the individual trend upwards, we can see the lows and the highs. But if we look at the wider trend, we are still in an uptrend. So, and if you look, we have a very obvious move up and a very obvious move down. So, and, you know, we this is like, obviously, you know, at the moment, going from 109 all the way down to 73, this was like the end of the world. I remember talking about this price action back then, and it, you know, people thought it was the end of the world, and it's not the end of the world. You know, this is just what is happening on the weekly. And I think if people get too bogged up on, you know, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and only look at that, and yeah, okay, if you're trading intraday and you're trading over a couple hours, you know, the wider weekly trend probably doesn't matter that much, unless you're maybe having a weekly open or a weekly close or something like that. But I think if you're trading and you're doing TA over the longer period of time and having a running commentary on the price, which obviously I do. Again, I do streams every week and I am constantly looking at Bitcoin all the time, and not only on a 15-minute, 1 hour perspective, but on daily and the weekly. You know, I need to be looking at the weekly. You know, and I think there's probably a lot of people out there who don't look at the weekly as much as they do on the other time frames, and I think that's the wrong thing to do. You know, I look at the weekly probably, you know, nearly just as much as I look at the lower time frames, because it's very important to know what you're doing on the wide time frame, and because there might be moves on the lower time frame which come out of nowhere, which you don't understand why, and then you look at the weekly and you go, okay, well, we have this massive move upwards, massive move down, massive move upwards, we should be expecting a massive move down. So if on the lower time frames we're more leaning towards being bearish, You're like, why are we doing that? Well, on the weekly, we need to be, we need to be consistently bearish on the lower time frame to start to reverse, to have that move downwards towards 90k, let's say, to then push upwards towards coming past 124, coming up towards 144, let's say, or wherever it's going to be. So there is a amount of you can use the weekly even on some lower time frames, because of the fact okay, we should be looking to find some sort of reversal at some point to come to this area, because we can't just magically come down. We have to have a reversal. We have to start to downtrend towards 90k to find a major low in this massive move we've had since September 2024, with these highs and lows as we are coming upwards for Bitcoin. So we need to be coming down. And that's why I've been so bearish since and yes, we did wick up one more time, but since this kind of down move, and since we've kind of been having this reversal since 14th of August, and we've started to have a major reversal, I've been especially negative. Again, obviously it's been clear downtrend, but since this last move where we printed past these lows and been coming downwards, I've been super negative, and I've been negative constantly. And yes, we did have this massive move. Yeah, okay, because it's really easy to see. We have this normal uptrend. Obviously, come past the high, reversal, normal downtrend, and then we have a normal downtrend until we come to this daily support, and then we pump upwards. But on the daily, all we're doing is filling some of this void. Obviously, we took out this high, we did XYZ on the 4 hour, but on the daily, all we're doing is taking out some of this void which we have left ourselves. We had this gap here, for example. So on the 4 hour, it might look like, oh, look, we've come past this high, we're pumping, we're going to come upwards with this massive candle which comes upwards. With a massive candle which comes upwards, we should use this as support and start to pump towards 120. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who thought that in this moment, but it's not. That's not correct, because number one, on the daily, we're just fulfilling a gap. Number two, we just found a daily support point. So on the 4 hour, and probably on the 1 hour as well, this looked like this was the end of the bear run. This was the end of us coming downwards. We've pumped upwards. Here we go. We're going to find support 114, and then we didn't. And I would assume there's a lot of people who got stuck out in this trade. And there's probably a lot of people who longed here and then got stopped out in this candle and got absolutely dumped. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this candle was why we dumped, was because of everyone was longing in this period, because they thought the bear trend was over, and then they get liquidated, and then this massive candle forms because we get dumped, because people longed over here, and then their stop point is like over here, let's say, and then they get stopped, and then everyone sells off, and then the market goes down. So and this is the thing, if you didn't look at the daily and only looked at the 4 hour and lower, this would be very confusing. But then you look at the daily and you realize, okay, well, we've had a massive move from the top. We've come to support point in the daily. We've had a bit of a move up to do a lower high, and now we're coming down to produce a new lower low. And that's all it is. And I think the market as a whole is realistically just different ways of forming trends. So on the daily, we have this high, this low, this high. But if you look at the 4 hour, this whole phase in here has been, down, up, down, up, down, up, up, has been this whole move. But you can't really tell that on the daily. So I think, for people out there, and this is like a bit of a, I know I'm yapping a lot, and I will move on to Ethereum in a minute, but I think for to tell people this, I think it's very important to look at the higher time frames and, really just give yourself a bias, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who don't really look at the daily and go, I don't care about the higher time frame. I'm trading over the next hour. Well, that next couple hours could have been this individual move, over this kind of 2 hour period. You could have seen us pumping. God, okay, cool. I'm gonna watch for this. Oh look, okay, I'm gonna retrace, and I'm gonna wait for 114k, and I'm gonna long, and then you would have got stopped out. So it's just one of those things, just to obviously reiterate to people to watch the trend, and that's why I'm not worried about this. And if you were to just watch these little moves, yes, okay, we had this move down, we did come to equilibrium, and we did just about take the low. I would have looked at this and gone, oh well, look, we should stop at 113. But obviously, like I've just been harping on about, I wouldn't have, and I didn't have, because, again, very consciously aware, and I had this drawn since up here, had this support point drawn for a long period of time, so I would know the fact that, and yes, I will also say, we did wick past this low. We obviously printed at this support point. We just about wicked past to take all the lows we produce, equal lows here, and then these lows. And then obviously we pumped. So yes, again, there was reason for us to pump coming from this massive support point. But, all it is at the end of the day, on the daily, it's just us having this retracement we've had. And you know what? I should probably draw this on the daily, to be fair, just to have a look at it. And we can see, yeah, the same thing sits at 114.8, 114.11, and the major gap on the daily. So a lot of what we just talked about in the 4 hour sits in the daily as well. We can see we have a very obvious gap here on the daily, which sits at about 114.11. You can see the midpoint sits there really nicely. So I do think we are going to be seeing that move upwards towards 114k within this move. And I then definitely think we are going to start to dump again towards the lows, because that's just what we're doing. And yes, you know, we do have the support, but time will tell. But, you know, we're going to get there. I have a comment on Square. Please tell me baby coin up or down. My market position I don't know what baby coin is. I don't really think I want to know what baby coin is. If you've misspelled Bitcoin, I think relatively in this kind of like day, let's say, just as an arbitrary value, up, but general trend down. So I wouldn't be longing. If you're on the lower time frames, yes. If you're on the 50 minute and you've watched for a reversal, you know, you could have longed from 110. You could have, you know, traded this on 2. You could have done a 50x on 2.2. And yes, absolutely, you know, you could long. But if you're, you know, I think for me, like, if you're someone who trades on the lower time frame and you don't look at the daily for a bias, I strongly urge you guys to do that. I would strongly urge you to look at the daily and the 4 hour, let's say, maybe as well, to find your daily and to find your bias, to find your reason, you know, because, you know, the 1 hour, you'll look like you're in an uptrend and then you'll just stop and then you'll just start coming down. So why have we hit that point where we reversed? Well, on the 1 hour, you might find a reason, but more times than not, the reason you stop and reverse is because of something on the daily. So, for example, here on the daily, it's very obvious we stop this. We have a lower high, we've filled this gap here, and then we start to dump past the low. Cool. That makes sense. But then if you go to the 4 hour, 1 hour, it's like, why do we stop here? You know, we've just come up arbitrarily and then dumped. So it's, you know, I would strongly urge you to, you know, in the future, if you are trading lower time frames and you don't look at the daily, please look at the daily and make sure you know what's happening on the higher time frames. But anyway, baby coin, is that actually a coin? I hope that's I hope that's you've misspelled Bitcoin and it's like a mistype. And if it is Bitcoin, as I just said, you know, I've already looked on the 1 hour and whatnot. I do think we are coming up a tiny bit more. We have this gap here. We have obviously this gap down here and whatnot. We are going to fill this and continue upwards. I think 114k is probably a good high for Bitcoin if we can get there and then obviously come back down towards the lows. Which obviously we've... And again, I'm not saying anything crazy. I'm not saying anything I haven't already been saying the entire time. Because again, all these moves downs we've had has been the same thing. You know, you find an area in your move down and then you take the low. Same thing here. You have this move down. You take this low. Okay, cool. We stop. We have previous gaps back here, which obviously we've used. We fulfill this. And then it's like, okay, cool. We reverse at this position. We find something in this period we've just formed, like some sort of resistance point. We use that resistance point, and then we take the low. We take the low. We form this gap here on the 4 hour, let's say. Form this gap. We come back upwards. We fulfill it, and then we take the low. And then we find support at this midpoint of the daily support. We look back. We form a gap on the 4 hour. We fulfill the gap. We come down, take the low. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's just a downtrend. The downtrend is you take the lows and you produce a lower high. And that's all I've been doing. That's all this is. That's all this is. You go to the 1 hour. That's all these are. You know, you do the high. You know, you take this low. You do a deep, deep, you know, retracement. Let me just get rid of this quickly. There we go. You know, you comes up to here. For example, you take this high, take the low. You know, you've taken all the lows. You found the support back on the 4 hour and the gap. You produce this gap on the 1 hour. You come up, you fulfill it. You come back down, take the low. You form gaps on the 4 hour here. So let's say it was about there. I think you fill it. You come back down. You find support at the midpoint. You form a gap on the 1 hour. You fulfill it. You take the low. It's the same thing over and over again. It's like clockwork. Majority again, you can't just look at downtrends constantly because this happens. If you're constantly looking at taking lows and always in a downtrend, this happens. You come to a higher time frame support point of interest, you wick past a daily point of interest like this low, and then you absolutely pump, and then you miss out. And yes, you can just trade downtrends and have tight stop losses, and you can lose in these scenarios. But then when you're in this scenario, you need to know how to go about it. Because again, a lot of people, like I said, would see, okay, we've had this downtrend, we've printed past this high, and now we've done this low, we're starting to go up now, and then people are probably longing in this period, and you're longing since this move, and then you get absolutely dumped, And then you see this, look, we have this low, we come past this low, and then we dump, because probably everyone's longing because they think we're going to do this and take this high because we've just started an uptrend, because we haven't, because all we've done on the daily is do a little lower high and then come down again. So again, I urge you to make sure you're looking at different time frames. Anyway, I've yapped. I've got, 31 minutes left. Let's go to Ethereum. Now, I haven't looked at Ethereum yet, so I'm very interested to see what we're doing. Daily. Let's see. So, I drew this last stream. We have this range on the daily, I think it is. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Tuesday is... Okay, so what I was talking about, let's go to the 1 hour here. The stream was... This was the stream. It was about here. So we were already starting to come down in this downtrend. We had this gap here on the 1 hour, probably on the 4 hour as well. We have come to fulfill it, and now we start to come upwards. We've actually had difficulty. We had order block here. We had a gap here, order block. So if I draw this across, I want to see what the resistance was like. We can see here, we had a gap here on the way down, which we actually seem to have used in this way down. Obviously, you know, we have this range here. We've come upwards to above equilibrium, found the gap here, come down, but last up close candle with the highest up move before the move down is an order block. We have then come down, found our support in this major gap, come upwards, and we've now found resistance. So, you know, we actually failed to produce a high above this because obviously we formed a big resistance. So, from what it looks like to me, I know I'm on the 1 hour, I do want to move on. We don't really have much expansion on the way upwards. We don't really have much support. We might have, you know, this last down close before this engulfing candle. We are going to be finding support in this area, potentially. You can see, obviously, we come down to our gap. We also took this low as well. We come down, we engulf, we come back down, we found support in here. We form another order block, we come down, we form another order block, we come down, we form this order block here. We come upwards, we come back down. And that's how the order blocks work. You can do propulsion blocks, which are just basically repetitive order blocks on the way upwards. So we do potentially have support here. I wouldn't, you know, if we are still in a downtrend, I wouldn't expect that to be super strong. We can see we found resistance here. We were kind of in an uptrend for a period of time. We've produced a low, and we've actually just printed past this low. So we are still in a downtrend here, even though we've had this retracement. Now, what we can see on here, though, is actually what's happened is... we formed a gap here on the way down, coming from this high. We've come upwards and we've wicked into this gap area. We can see we drew that on the 1 hour and the 4 hour on Ethereum. We can see that here. If we go back to the 1 hour here. Oh no, it was actually an order block. Let's go to the 4 hour. You can see. Actually, you can't see on the 4 hour. Actually, very interesting. I think this is also a very interesting thing about the charts I've noticed recently. Is a lot of things form similarly. But differently. So this is a rejection block. We can see we form this gap, we come upwards, and then we retrace, and then we dump. This is a rejection block. So on the 4 hour, we have a rejection block being used here. We actually formed a order block on the 4 hour as well here with this last candle, which engulfs here. We can see we've used the midpoint here. So this is going to be resistance as well, by the way. But we can see we had a rejection block here, which we actually used, and then formed another order block here, which allows us to come down. We fill this gap here, and then we retrace back upwards, and then we found resistance in this order block. So you can see how price is very bouncy. You know, you can see, I think, obviously, this is the way I look at the charts anyway. Obviously, people look at the charts in different ways, but just looking based on price action, sometimes you can actually have fun, and this might sound sad, but you can actually have fun looking at the charts because things just start to click. So, for example, you're like, oh, we have a rejection block here, you know, which filled this gap. So we have liquidity here, and then we use it, and we form a rejection block. We dump, we form a gap here, but obviously we've come to fill this higher gap here. So this probably isn't going to be used. We are also in a discount, so we're not looking to short here because we're in a discount. So we wouldn't use this gap. We obviously come upwards, but again, we're above equilibrium now. So now we're aiming towards up here. We find resistance. We then form an order block in this, which then we use down here, and we can see we're starting to print past this low, so it looks like we're starting to come into a downtrend, and then if we are coming to a downtrend, obviously we need to pay attention to that on the 4 hour and then probably aim downwards. However, what I will say about the daily is we formed this range, we've come down, and then we've used this gap here on the daily. We can see we've used it with this wick in this candle, and now we start to come downwards. However, we do have this order block here, which we use with this propulsion block, which we've used previously. So even though we are probably going to come down again. We still have a support point in this 4,300 mark. So even on the 4 hour, I do think we are going to retrace, and we do have that support point on the 1 hour. We do have, we can probably look at the 4 hour as well. We can see this is going to be support in this block, which we are very getting close to come to. I'm going to wager a guess to say we might, even though we're coming downwards, the major low. Obviously, we have a major low here. If we look at the major trend, we have this major low. We have this kind of move upwards. Again, if we print past this, it might not look good on the 4 hour. But even I think on the daily, we haven't really printed past any lows. If you look at the daily, until we print past, until we're printing past this 4,000 mark, because you can see major move up, major move down, move upwards. We're starting to, and yes, this is a low, and if we print past it, it won't be very good, but we can easily wick past it and start to come back upwards. So I think we can use this daily support on the lower time frames, on the 4 hour, let's say. If we make this orange, let's say, I reckon we are going to continue downwards a bit as we are starting this downtrend. Again, we draw this range. Let's go to the 1 hour here. We draw this range. We had a gap here. We have a high we took, but on the 4 hour we have a order block. We can see we came to this optimum area. Within this order block, we have again, for example, in this scenario, if you were to trade this and go, okay, cool, we had this support, we are coming downwards. You could look at the 4 hour gap, and on the 1 hour go, okay, well, I'm going to short the midpoint, have a stop loss above the high, and then aim for the low. Very was a very viable trade here, for example. If I was to draw this quickly, I know this is a hindsight, and people don't like hindsight, and I don't like hindsight because it feels like cheating, but you can see a good risk reward. If you were to watch this on the 4 hour, you come down on the 4 hour again, we fill this gap again. We've already found resistance, we've done a low, and now we've come upwards and we've found resistance. If you start to respect this, it's then going to be us aiming for that low. So again, would it be a viable trade here? We've aimed for this low. We've just about printed past it here with this move, and now obviously we're kind of coming upwards again. So what I will draw for this, and again, I could be wrong on this, not financial advice, but I would probably aim for price to come back upwards again. And what I see here is an inverted gap as well, because again, we're on this uptrend. We have this move upwards, and again, we are in a scenario where we're not looking for another long as we are in resistance. So I wouldn't be looking to trade this gap as we're on the way down. I know it might seem, oh, well, why can't you just use these random gaps? And for example, why didn't we use this one? Well, on the daily, we're coming below this equilibrium to find a long. So again, as soon as we come below equilibrium, we're looking to long. Very viable gap here. We fulfill it and then we long. So again, another scenario there, for example. But same thing here. We're on this uptrend. We're not looking to find long. We've come upwards, not long. Oh, we're going to come upwards again. We're not looking for that because we've already found resistance. We've already come down once. So it's like, okay, well, we've come up, found resistance, and now we've come down again. So, you're not looking to have that long, but you can invert them. And what I will say on this trend downwards, on the 4 hour, in 20 minutes, we're going to print this candle. This also means we have a gap on the 4 hour in here. And if we go to the 1 hour and use that, yes, we do have this mini gap here, for example. But on the 4 hour, very soon, we're going to print this. And then we're going to have a gap on the 4 hour to look at. And also that inverted fair value gap we could also use. And that, again, midpoint sits about 4,564 going to the 1 hour. We can see, I would obviously probably say we could see a high in this area for Ethereum. Again, bottom of this order block, we have this gap we're going to fill, inverted fair value gap. We also have that 4 hour gap we can fill. And I do think we are going to continue this trend downwards. And I think we're going to continue this trend downwards, which we are forming here. We've printed past this low. We're forming this trend downwards. I think we are going to continue to do this. Yes, we will probably see support here. But I personally think we could see as low as this. I wouldn't be concerned if we saw a low coming towards 4,200. I still think we could have potential to have that move upwards. Because again, we have this move up, move down. We have printed a new high. And this is the main thing I want to say. This isn't like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's case, let's say this was the high. Again, let's say this was 123k. Bitcoin, 123, low. We wicked past the high and then started a downtrend. But in this case, we've had a move upwards, massive, support areas, massive gaps, filled gap, came upwards. And then we've printed a new high. Obviously, we wicked past all the highs here. We wicked past these, and again, these were equal highs. We are going to wick past the all-time high and equal highs. This is going to be a downtrend. Again, I've been talking about this move upwards. I've been talking about the whole move. In this whole area, I was like, okay, we're coming to the all-time high. I'm going to come back downwards. And then what I was saying, and what I started off with saying last stream on Ethereum was, I think we're going to start dumping now and come down. And I do think we are going to do that. I do think relative, we are going to see a downtrend. We are going to see us come down on Ethereum. And, it's, again, it's a matter of time and whatnot. And I do think we are going to see one more move downwards. Do I think we could see us come past all-time high one more time? I don't know. I mean, what we could do, this is obviously not financial advice. We have this move upwards. We have a move upwards. We could have one more move upwards, expand downwards, and then have gaps in this move down, which allows us to a lower high. If you notice the head and shoulder thing going on there, we could definitely do that. I think for Ethereum. Again, this is not financial advice. I could be very wrong on this, and this is something I want people to bear in mind. I could be very wrong on this, but yeah, I think I do still think we are viable for potential move upwards again. And if we look at the down, because again, I think that there's also another way of thinking about the chart is the balance between what keeps us down versus what keeps us up. So, for example, what's going to keep us down in this case? Well, obviously, we are printing a gap here. We have this inverted gap. So, in this relative case, in these last, from 6 a.m. till now, in this basically today, we do have reason to keep us down. But on the 4 hour and the daily and the higher time frame, basically the 4 hour in this case, what's going to keep us down? Well, yes, we do have resistance, but we can break resistance. It's not impossible to break resistance. We did have this 1 hour resistance, which obviously we have used and formed another resistance in. But what can keep us up? And this is the thing. Okay, we have reason to continue downwards, and that's what I've been saying so far. I do think we can continue downwards for Ethereum. And in relative to the last move, we've already used this. We don't really have much support apart from this order block. We had this gap which we've already used, which allowed us to come up one more time. But other than that, we don't really have much in this move. So apart from this gap and this major gap, we don't really have much support. And I do think this isn't going to be super strong support, I don't think. Because again, we haven't really we haven't come past a high or a low. We have filled the gap, so this is potential liquidity to find support. But I don't think we haven't really found a major support in this case. I definitely think this could be support again, major daily support, which we have used already. We could definitely come to the midpoint of this. So in terms of what could keep us up, we do have a potential support here. We do have major daily support in this range. And again, we are in this major move. And again, we've seen this so many times previously, where we have a move upwards. We have an uptrend on the higher time frame. We have a range, and then we start a downtrend to come to this area. And I did this on Bitcoin, and I was very wrong on this. And this is why I'm conscious to not do it again, even though we are in this major downtrend. And we have had periods on my streams previously where we have had major gaps, which look like are the major support point and have been major support, but we have come down one more time. And it doesn't mean we're out of this trend. It doesn't mean we're out of this retracement, and it doesn't mean we can't wick past these lows and come to this midpoint and find support here and then come up again. It doesn't mean we can't do that. And we have done that previously where we've started a massive downtrend in a retracement on the daily and then still pumped. So, and that's the thing. And it's very similar to how we have on Bitcoin, where we had that massive downtrend. We had that daily support point. We came to it. We had a massive pump. People are going to think we're in an uptrend, and we came back down again. So, it's the kind of the same scenario where even though we're coming down and whatnot, we might print past this low. It doesn't necessarily mean we can't come back upwards again, because of what we have on the daily, and we are in this retracement on the uptrend. So, but yeah, in terms of what keeps us up, we do have that 4,260 area, 4,300 area. So I would probably say that as a potential area for Ethereum. So I do think Ethereum can continue downwards again. I do think it can continue downwards in what we're doing, but I probably still stand with what I talked about on Tuesday, which is we could have one more potential move back upwards for Ethereum before we see the major downtrend we could start to come into. But you can clearly see how we're slowing down, and I think with Ethereum we could do we could have a move where we've come to this low, and we do a lower high and then start to dump and come downwards. Because again, this is also a rejection block, by the way. This is a rejection block, I do want to point out. So we could potentially see some resistance in this area. If you look here, we have equal highs, which we take. We have the all-time high, which we took all in this one fell swoop. We come up one more time with this candle here on the daily, which produces no candle body, massive wick. This is the textbook rejection block. So the chances we can come upwards and do a lower high at 4,850 and then start to dump is very, very, is very strong. I do definitely think we could see a lower high in this range and then dump back downwards and start to have a downtrend. So when I say I think we can have one more push up for Ethereum, I don't think, I'm not saying it in the sense that, we're going to go to 5,200. It's in the sense that I think we can have one more move upwards, which could very well be a lower high, which starts the downtrend. But I don't personally see us dumping from the position we're in right now all the way to 3,800, let's say. So again, I could be wrong, not financial advice. We'll see how it goes. Again, I'm going to be here on Saturday. We're going to be looking at this again, and the chances that this does something really crazy on Saturday. I mean, again, we could be in well full effect to be doing this on Saturday, but I will be looking on Saturday. I will be giving my opinions again. So it is a nuanced take on Ethereum. You know, there is some continuity. There is some reason for what I'm saying, but I do want to look at it again on Saturday, and I will be doing that. But again, I still stick with what I said on Tuesday, and I will be moving on to Solana now. So let's have a look at what we have on Solana. So 220 or whatever it was. Very nice here. We have the top and the bottom of this order block, which we've talked about last stream and the stream before, I think, actually. We've actually pretty much come to the top of it here and found resistance. Again, not major resistance, I wouldn't say, but you can see here, we have been in a nice uptrend. We can see we've come upwards, massive expansion. We're doing really well for Solana right now. We see massive expansions, tiny retracements into little gaps here, massive expansion. Obviously, we have this rejection block, for example, as coming into this area. Rejection block, we just about come into it. We also have... I'd probably go to the 4 hour for this, actually. We have on the 4 hour, we have some gaps here. We also have the wide range, which obviously we come to the midpoint. We actually have an order block here we've formed as well, which I will draw here. I'll make this a different color, though. I'll make this a nice sea blue, I suppose. You can see here, we actually come to the bottom of this order block. This is a good sign as well. These two orange lines are the daily order block I believe we've had for a long time now, which I drew out last stream and the stream before. We can see we came to roughly about midpoint and then had a massive move downwards. And I talked about this retracement to this order block, or to this gap, actually. So what I talked about last stream was, it was here. We were talking here. And what I was saying was, okay, massive expansion, found resistance at the order block, massive expansion downwards, came to fill the midpoint of this gap here on the 1 hour, and now we've started the uptrend, and obviously we just continued upwards. And again, if we just look on the 1 hour, yes, okay, we have come past these lows, we are in this downtrend. But again, 4 hour daily, this is what I've been saying on Bitcoin, what I was saying on Ethereum. If you're just trading on the 1 hour and the 15 minutes, you can, I think it's a lot easier for you to get tricked out, because yes, on the 1 hour, if you're not looking at the chart properly and you see us come past these lows, and you're just, because again, I think some of the starter things people look at, you look at chart patterns, you look at uptrends and downtrends, and one of the next things I think you look at is how to spot a reversal. I think one of the most common things is when you print past lows or print past highs. Is I think another thing people learn very. I talk like I'm some saint. I'm not a saint. Again, I'm not some professional at charts. Again, there's a lot of people out there who are a lot better than me, but I'm just giving my opinions. And I think one of the most common things you learn within the first set of things you learn for trading, and again, I've been there as well, is the how to identify when you're not. When you're not in an uptrend or when you're not in a downtrend, and that is when you're printing past that low or printing past that high. So, for example, uptrend, you have these lows. You didn't print past them. You didn't print past them here. You have this one last move upwards, and then you print down, and you've printed past these lows, and now you're in a downtrend. You can see little high here. Oh my God, guys, look, massive expansion, tiny retracement, massive expansion. It's over, guys. You know, we're coming down. $150 here we come. But you don't look at the higher trend. And on the higher trend, all we've done is we've come upwards, we've come down and filled the gap. Also on the daily here, and this is again cascading, and this is what I was saying on Ethereum. On the 4 hour we had a rejection block, on the 1 hour we had an order block. Same thing here. We have order block here, last down close. Actually, you can see it really easily with this as well. I'll give this example. We have a move upwards, last another down close candle before an engulfing candle. So what do we have here? We have an order block. We can see we've used it here. Last candle before the move upwards, we have another order block here being formed from this support called a propulsion block. We have another propulsion block being formed from the midpoint of this upwards. Again, another propulsion block here, which is still an order block. And we can see here, we move down, we have come to the midpoint, and then we've absolutely pumped and are going to engulf this candle. So what we could probably say, actually, is this could be support at $200. We could see support here at $200. And in the way we're going for Solana, we are seeing a nice uptrend. We are seeing a nice uptrend right now for Solana. So I could definitely see this $200 being quite a high support point. So, but yes, anyway, what was I saying? Here we go. So yeah, order block here again. We've come to some sort of liquidity. And yes, we do form these old, we do form different candles. We do find support. We don't always have to come to them. That's the thing. So obviously we formed a move down engulf. We had this candle which moves above this candle. The open of it, the open and the close. If the open of this candle is if the close of this candle, which is a green candle in this case, is above or below, okay, I'm saying this really badly, in a bullish scenario, so in a scenario where you have a support point. In this case, a support point, you can see we form this area, we have a midpoint here, we have some reason. In the way that you have this scenario, if the open of this candle is, I'm so bad at this, if the close of this candle is above the open of this candle, that's when you normally have a thing. And these aren't willy-nilly, like, you have to have reason for this. And if you go to 1 hour, where was it actually? We had a reason. I think we had a gap. Or we had the void candle. We had the liquidity void, which is a series of up close candles with gaps in them and whatnot. You'll see, gap here. We have this gap and whatnot. In that series, we came to this period here, and obviously in an uptrend as well. If you look from this candle to this candle as well, you can see we just about came below that equilibrium point as well. Probably go to 15-minute here, having a look. There's some lows we took on the 1 hour, though. I think my only thing I would probably say is we had this old gap on the way upwards, which we use here, which we wigged into, and then had a massive move upwards, tiny body. This is going to be a rejection block, not perfect, but a decent rejection block. And then we can see here we came into that rejection block and found support for a higher low. Below equilibrium, formed a nice thingy-majiggy, formed a nice low here, and then boom, off we go. So that's also a thing to look at. But anyway, I'm yapping. Order block, cool, we have support. So looking on the 1 hour at what we're doing right now. So again, like I said, this range is that wider time frame support point, the wider time frame order block we have on Solana. And obviously we've been coming upwards, we do nothing. And then we've come to the top of this resistance now in this area. Maybe 30 cent off, not bad. Come to the top of this area. And then we've come down, very interestingly as well. We formed support in this area. So we have used this range. We also had this series of candles. We've actually come to the midpoint. And if we look at the range of it, we can see we came below equilibrium in this range. If I draw this properly, there we go. You can see, again, it's not rocket science. It's range-based trading. If you have an uptrend, I say it so many times, if you have an uptrend, this is an uptrend. What do you notice about an uptrend? Every single time. Higher lows and higher highs. So the whole concept of this isn't to do some magical, fancy stuff. It's the idea, like you're basically trading the idea. Because again, you can look for reversals. You can try to trade reversals. And when I look at range trading, and most charts are either in an uptrend, downtrend, or consolidating. And I've said this before as well. If you know how to trade an uptrend, a downtrend, and a consolidation, you will know how to trade the markets. Because that's how the charts work. You're either in a consolidation, you're in an uptrend, or you're in a downtrend. Sorry, excuse me. And a consolidation, this is power free. This is power free. And yeah, ICT is a guy who talks a lot about lots of things and just coins it. But there's so many different ways of looking. I think this is a market maker model. There's so many different ways people look at this like this. Like there's so many people, because there's like 50 people who all have talked about this same scenario in different ways. This is just one guy who talks about this thing in his own way. So again, there's a lot of people who trade, like a lot of the ideas from different traders. It's all realistically the same thing, just kind of repackaged and whatnot. But anyway, power free, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. It's this. It's realistically, you have these highs and these lows, multiple equal, relative highs and lows, and then you have pretty much every time I've personally noticed a accumulation, it always happens where you watch for that move. You don't trade this. You trade to wait to see the move you have, and once you find, let's say you're currently seeing price start to move downwards. You go to the lower time frame, you watch for a reversal, or you look back at previous price action. Let's say you have a gap here. You go, okay, cool, we have a gap here. So what I'm going to guess to say is, in this retracement, we probably will see price stop at this gap, find a low, long the hell out of this, and then price will start to come upwards. This happens so often in price, power free, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. It happens quite often. So that's how you trade a consolidation, is you wait for that move. The way you trade, if you're just looking at, okay, how do I trade this? You don't. It's basically the way you do it. You don't trade this, you wait. That's the one thing you can take away from this, is how do I trade this move? If I'm watching this on the 1 hour, how am I trading this? You don't. You wait. You wait and wait. You wait for that to happen, or you wait for that to happen. What you could do, if you're on TradingView or whatever, you could probably put a notification at this price and this price. and you'll be notified if price does this or price does this. You go to the charts, you watch what price is doing, you wait for that low, you long, and then price will come back upwards. And again, I'm not saying it's perfect. It doesn't always happen. I'm not saying this is some magical formula, but from what I notice anyway, whenever I've noticed personally, and I've done this on Telegram, there's a 15-minute consolidation on Bitcoin. Before we had the massive pump to 123k, there was a consolidation in one of the periods, and I was talking about it on the 15-minute, and it happened. And I remember that because I always like to remember things I talk about. But I noticed, I think Tito said something actually. I haven't read the chat in a while. I should probably do that. Kishan, shout out to you guys. There's not actually a lot of people in there's like quite a few people in YouTube, but not a lot of people talking. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. It's quite a quiet night though, I think. But yeah, regardless. Can you make a course how to read candles? What do you think? I could do. Yeah, I've had I've had thoughts about doing that, and obviously, quite a long time ago, I used to use the market cipher sort of stuff, and I'm gonna let you guys do the secret. It wasn't market cipher. I lied. All right, I've pretended I had market cipher, but it's like $3,000. Who, I'm not gonna buy market cipher. Who's buying market cipher? You know what I mean? But I thought about it. I thought, I could do, but again, when I speak, I like to speak with confidence. I like to speak like because relative to what I know what I'm talking about. If you know what I mean, like when I speak about something, I know what I'm speaking about because I already know it. So when people say, "Oh yeah, he speaks like he knows it," you know it, like the confidence of you speak like you know it. It's because this is what I know. There's quite a few things I don't know. So what I can do, I could probably do a little video set of things that I've looked at here. But what I can do, I'll message you a playlist of things I've watched. The ICT guy, again, people trade ICT, and there's a lot of people who don't like ICT, which is fine. And I'm not. It's not, I'm not setting stone on his stuff, but some of the players I've watched of his early stuff is pretty decent, and is what I talk about here. And if I had to compare all the ways I've looked at the chart previously, obviously I've used market cipher. I had this period of time where I used these massive lines, and all these lines. I think I might still have it somewhere. I could probably show you what it looked like. Where is it? It might be. Where is it again? Which one was it? Might be this one actually, and you'll see it in a second. You'll see how ugly it is. Okay, it's not that. Hold on. Let me go to a proper number. And I used to trade this, and this was horrifying. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad period of time to trade this, and it looks pretty good. It's not bad. And you know what? I think one day I might go back to try and use this and see if it's any better, because this goes based on this kind of extends the idea of what this ICT guy teaches, whatever. But it just was too much, and I just wanted to do something simpler. So I just basically look at ICT stuff. So what I can do, I can send you, message me so remind me. I'll send you a link to his playlist. But what I can do in the future, when I set it all out, I can probably make my own mini series of the stuff I've accumulated, because again, there's a lot of stuff he does which I don't use, and it's just my series of things I look at. So I probably could make a little video series, but I don't have one right now. So, but yeah, I could make one, like I said. But for something you can use right now, and when the stream ends, I will send you it. I will send you his playlist so you can go watch it. It's long and he talks a lot, and sometimes he'll make a 40-minute video, and 10 minutes of it is useful. So I will warn you. And I haven't watched every video. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of videos I've not watched, and there's a lot of what I will send you. There's a lot of it I haven't watched fully because I haven't needed to. So I will say that. But you can go look it up, like just ICT if you wanted to. But I will send you the PDF, the playlist of his videos, so you can actually go watch some stuff. But in terms of personal things, again, I'm live. You can ask me questions. If you say, "Oh, how do I, what is that you've drawn, or what is the thing you're looking at? Why do you look at it?" You can ask me questions. I will be more than happy to answer. So in terms of if there's specific questions which you would want a course on, which you can ask, I will answer it. But obviously, sometimes I'm caught up in the chart and I'm not looking at chat. But yeah, I will send you some links. Anyway, back to Solana. So what we've been talking about for a long period of time is, if you go to the daily, is this. It's this period back here. It was this range of gap. It's also this gap. If I draw it properly, it's this individual gap sits at about 223. This general area. We're getting close to 216. So if we go back to the daily, so it's not exactly this price because we've already used it. It's basically 220. And it's these highs. These highs, we had these equal highs and then this high which dumped. This high at basically 220. And that's a price, and it sounds like a sleeper agent type of thing. You know when they say like blueberry pie and this guy like goes into locked in mode and he's been like conditioned by the US Army and he's like an FBI agent, and he has like a keyword and he like goes into this like killer mode. This is what I feel like with Solana. I've been saying 220 right now. It feels like a kill switch in my mind. It's like I hear 220, I think of Solana. But yes, 220 has been the price I've been looking at for so long now. If I go back to the daily, we can see we're in the optimum range. We are above equilibrium, and equilibrium is obviously the main area. It's going to get very messy now because there's a lot of lines. I do apologize. Just bear with me. Daily, the last high before the move down, this was the area here. This is the area. I could probably, I could probably draw it a bit higher to this highest one here. To be fair, now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, whatever. I'll put it back. Doesn't matter. Basically, equilibrium 195. Once you're above equilibrium is obviously optimum area. We can see uptrend, doing really well. And then we can see that the main gap, main area is this 220 area optimum. And again, it doesn't have to be in our optimum area. And if you think of what Bitcoin's doing, we're in this downtrend and we think we're going to be heading towards 90k. Ethereum, we're probably going to do that lower high or maybe even a wick above the all-time high and then start to dump. We've been talking about 2800 and all these sorts of prices. Solana, same scenario. And we've talked about market flows. We've talked about Bitcoin going first, then Ethereum, then Solana, and so on and so forth. So, for example, Crows, obviously I know Crows had a different scenario, but Crows been pumping, Syrup's already been going down. And this, in terms of relative to coins I know of, which I've looked at on streams, which have been altcoins, those are the ones, and they're not really good examples. But, Bitcoin's gone first, the first coin to go. Then it's idyllically Ethereum, then it's Solana. So, in terms of what Ethereum's doing, we're at this all-time high. We're at the area we've been talking about, aiming towards all-time highs, and then obviously we've been coming down. Solana, we've been coming upwards. We've been doing our thing, the area we've been looking at has been this 222 area the entire time. We've really been honing on this area, and actually now that I'm looking at it, we actually have a weekly gap in this area. I'm actually gonna hone this in a bit more on the weekly. There we go. So yeah, it's about that. It's still, again, 220 is the bottom of this. It could go, to be fair, it's actually 224. But again, it's this 220 area for Solana, around about a couple dollars in or out for 220. So that is the context of what I've been talking about with this. So I got to the 1 hour here. So yes, again, we've been talking about this. We have this uptrend. We have this low. We've come into a support point. We've just about hit off this bottom of this area. We don't really have much of an expansion downwards for resistance or anything. We also obviously have that support point going to the 50 minutes. We had a bit of expansion downwards. We have had a retracement to expand. Again, this is what we looked at on the 4 hour on the daily. It's the same thing. It's like you start a downtrend and then you hit that point to go upwards. So if you just look at the 50 minute, you're like, okay, well, we start this downtrend. Why are we going to start to go up all of a sudden? Obviously, we have the higher time frame support points. We are, we have had that move downwards. We did have a order block being formed here. Again, last up close candle before the down move, and the highest one, actually, to be fair, is this candle. But again, we come into it and then have this engulfing candle. So this is now resistance. We can see we find resistance in this area. Same thing here, up close candle. Okay, let me draw this a bit better. Similar to how we had with Ethereum, we have this candle, which we've formed, where we've kind of formed it, and now we're kind of coming back upwards. So we could potentially see support there. But what I will say about them is the more and more you form these propulsion blocks, the less strength they have. So I'm not saying this is going to be guaranteed resistance, and I don't want to talk about resistance because the idea is we've had this low, we've had this high, we've had this low in this area, and now we're going to see a high. So worst case scenario, we might have traced a tiny bit more towards 207, but we've already found that support point. And again, this is one of my main thing. This is why I'm not convinced that we're going to see any more down. I think we probably will aim for the highs again. Is because we've seen the bottom of the daily order block we've had all that time ago on the previous price action. So, we've come upwards from a low point. We've hit the top of the order block. We've then come down and found support in the bottom of the order block. And obviously, retracement points, X, Y, Z. Obviously, main liquidity void comes to the midpoint of it. Whatever. The idea is then we've had this move down. We should then aim for the highs. So what I will say for Solana, and again, especially we have these relative equal highs here, which we could also want to target. I think we'll produce a new high have another retracement, and I think we are going to be continuing this uptrend. I think we're going to be continuing it and going upwards. So I think Solana will continue upwards, even though we had this resistance, and yes, we have used it previously. But remember what we did with Bitcoin. What did we do with Bitcoin? We had Bitcoin's case. We had the support point on the daily. We had the downtrend. We came to midpoint. We came upwards. We came to fulfill it. Obviously, we did have a pump, and then we came down. But what I'm trying to get at here, we had a downtrend. We came to midpoint. We came up, came to the bottom of it, and then we flipped it eventually. So similar to how we had, and again, I'm not saying Solana has to, because Solana's not going to exactly go how Bitcoin went. That's just not possible. But in the idea that we kind of, on the wider trend, we came up to the midpoint, came down, we've come to the top of it, and now we've come down a bit more. We have clearly hit into this resistance, and now we've come upwards. So we found resistance, and then we found support. So the idea is we probably should come upwards and continue upwards and then aim higher. So again, I'm still adamant, and we're very close to this 224 area. We're getting very close. So think, Ethereum's very close to what I could see its last high be. Solana's very close to where I could see its high be. And again, not financial advice. It could go higher. I'm not saying we can't. I'm not Gandhi. I'm not perfect, whatever. But in the idea that we have these lows, we have these periods which we've been watching for a long time. I've been talking about this retracement since like down here. I've been talking about this all the way upwards. So again, it's taking its time, which obviously makes sense. But I expect very soon could be that point to watch for. So we'll obviously see with Solana, but I do think we are continuing upwards, and I'm very happy with how Solana's moving. I'm happy with how Bitcoin's moving, and I'm happy how Ethereum is moving. So Syrup, I'll give a quick update, and I'll move to Sui and then CRO. I know I've got a lot to cover and not a lot of time to cover it. What have I been talking about? Here we go. Okay, so what have we had? Monday, Tuesday. Okay, here we go. I don't know why I haven't drawn a retracement. Why have I not drawn a retracement? What an amateur. All right, here we go. High to low. Boom. There we go. High to low. So, what do we have here? Well, we had an order block here. It's very messy. I'm going to hide the trade here so we can see. I'm also going to hide some other things. We had the old gap here, which we used. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to hide this major retracement. That's the main retracement we've been talking about. I'll keep that. So, in this major move we've had, I talked about the chart here. So we've had the move upwards, which obviously we've had the low. We just about pretty past this low. We had an order block here actually, but we whipped past this low here. And again, I'm not looking for support because we're in a downtrend. And remember, that's what I've been saying the entire time. I've been saying about Bitcoin and Ethereum, even though, oh, well, look, this is well, I thought you said that the last candle before an engulfing candle in the up close, I thought you said that was support. And we should use that. Why have we come past it? Well, we don't want to use this as support. We don't want support. We want resistance, or we want us to come down. I mean, remember what we've been doing on Syrup. We've had this massive move. We had this retracement. We've used the high. We've had the move downwards. We've had a bit of a move upwards, obviously for a lower high, and now we've come down again. And to be fair, even on the daily, we have this resistance actually in this last candle, which you can see we're seeing difficulty at this midpoint at 4428. Again, besides the point, I'm yapping. Let's just move on. So yeah, 1 hour, whatever, we can see we came past this low, we printed, came past, crucial areas. Again, I think we have a rejection block back here, but whatever. Main idea is these lows, we came past them, and obviously we've started this move upwards. Not really much of an uptrend. We haven't really had much highs and lows. We've had a nice expansion upwards. And then we've had, let's go to the 1 hour again, actually. We actually had some gaps back here, which we haven't really used. We have a high here we took. But if we look at the main actual gap we had here, we can see we pretty much filled it there. What we can notice about this, though, is obviously we had the main rejection block, order block as well, which obviously helped. We used this area of this gap. We fulfilled the entire thing. Obviously, in this case, I think what happened was we came up, we used it, and then we continued upwards again, because obviously we had the gap here. We filled this gap. We came upwards again, and then we formed these equal highs in these two highs. Which again, equal highs. We've taken equal highs. We took the highs. This is now again we've printed past these lows. This is quite clearly us starting a bit of a downy Mahuki going on. Equal highs, boom. What I will say about this though as well, took the highs. Taking liquidity like those highs and having that small body is going to be a rejection block. So if we use this, we can see we formed it, and again, midpoint, resistance. We also formed an order block here as well, which we actually haven't used yet, but we formed it, formed some gaps, whatnot. But again, from here, we're in this downtrend. We've printed past this major low, and yes, there are these gaps. But if we think about the major trend and what we're doing on the major time frame, we don't want to be looking at these gaps. And yes, we can. Oh well, what if there's a reversal and whatnot? Well, we've already on the lower time frames, or relative lower time frames, we've already printed past this low. So it's all just really us continuing downwards. So again, we got so close to that low, and what I've been targeting the entire time is the old low. So I think we're continuing to do that. I think we're continuing to have this move upwards and move down and move up and move down. So it's just us really continuing downwards, continuing upwards, and whatnot. So we will see. But I do think we're continuing downwards. Sui, I know Tito, you're here to want to look at Sui. What are we doing? Let's see. Let's go to the 4 hour. So when was the last time I looked at it? So Tuesday 10. So we're here. So what I was saying was this retracement. I was talking about this gap on the 1 hour. I think it was this 1 hour gap, which obviously we have. The main gap is this area, but I wanted to enhance it to the 1 hour. But I think we had also this order block. We had this move down, move upwards, and then we engulfed this candle. We also took these highs, this high here as well. And importantly as well, which I think I pointed out on the stream, is we had all these highs and the major high. We kind of had this high, we had these relatively equal highs in this range here, which obviously we took in this move. And what we also had up here was another order block, which we took. I think we took these highs, so you can see it kind of cascades. These are propulsion blocks, which are also order blocks, but same thing. We had these relative equal highs. We also had the rest of this gap, whatever. We had these highs. We took the highs. We formed this order block. We had dumped down. We had highs here and these highs as well. We also had this order block here, which if we draw across, we can see. We had this resistance. We came to the midpoint of this as well. So we had an order block, which also technically used here at this midpoint. But you can also see we wicked up and used this as resistance as well. Main thing here as well, main candle. We took all this liquidity and then we dumped down, and now we've come back down. So I'm going to delete these. I know, I'll keep them. Why not? Again, same candle here, same process. Let's make this like a pink, purple or whatever. Same thing here. We have this resistance. We've come up, we used it, resistance came down. This is also going to be a propulsion block in this last green candle before the move downwards, coming into this resistance. So that's why I have it drawn out. So I do think we can retrace for Sui. Again, we are in this downtrend. I don't think it's going to be us coming to $3.80. But again, even if we go to the daily here, it's like we have this major gap here. Top end being about $3.60. So I think I talked about $3.60 on the last stream. So I do think we are going to retrace it upwards again for Sui. I could be wrong, obviously not financial advice, but I do think we could retrace it one more time for Sui. But again, we're getting close to that equilibrium. We're getting towards that equilibrium again. We're getting towards this max low for $3.20. What I was talking about on the higher time frames for the daily gaps and whatnot, especially the weekly, I think it was as well, was this range and this low. Rest of this being... where was it again? I think it was $3.10 to fill the rest of this gap. Looking at this range as well, which I actually already have drawn, midpoint $3.20. So again, I think I was talking about last stream, $3.20 to $3.15, I still think is in the playbooks. And if we remember with Sui, it's not all doom and gloom because we still have this uptrend. We're just going to do a higher low. Same thing. What is an uptrend? Higher lows and high highs. And main thing as well, this whole move, yes, there are these mini lows. We didn't print past this low. We have major low here, major high, major low, and now we're just coming upwards. We haven't printed past anything. I think this is just us coming upwards again to continue upwards and aim for highs. And again, these are equal highs as well. And I remember what I talked about equal highs. That is, it's like honey to a bear. It's like honey to Winnie the Pooh. Or something, I don't know. Something along those lines. But yeah, I think we could push, again, it looks like we're consolidating, to be fair. Okay, this actually might be a good example of a consolidation. Consolidations don't have to be, like, if I look at power free trading, they don't have to be pinpoint accurately equal. As you can see here, you have moves upwards, move down, move upwards, move down. You have these relative equal moves where you're not really moving. Same thing here. You kind of have this move where we've come down, we've come up, come down, come upwards, come down, come upwards. We're not really doing much. So this is the same thing here. It's very similar, where actually we've actually seen the low here, but we can see let me shimmy this to this low, shimmy this to this high. I know I'm cheating here, whatever, but if we can see an obvious move, these aren't obvious moves. These are like, okay, we're doing this, you know what I mean? We're doing that. If we can see an obvious move down or up, that will orchestrate to us what we're going to be doing. And you can see, yes, we have had expansions, but you can see this is quite expansionary move downwards. And we're starting to move. So if we see us go towards, $3.38, this is going to be us moving like this, expanding downwards. This is going to be our manipulation, and then us pumping. And what do we want right now for Sui? We want Sui to come upwards. We want Sui to, coming from this low, to come upwards to do a lower high in either this order block or some of these gaps at $3, you know, $3.60, and then do a higher low and come downwards again. And that's what we want Sui to do in the trend. That's what we want Sui to do. That's what we are expecting Sui to do. So that's what I want to see. So if we have this being formed, and we see us move down towards $3.36, I'm gonna say, you know, what we could do. We could, we've come upwards a bit. We've had this trend. We could expand downwards towards $3.35 for this low, and then we could pump. And that is, okay. I'm not gonna keep my word for this. Again, not financial advice. You know, most times I see a consolidation, you see that manipulation, and you see a distribution. So again, it's not perfect, but I'm very excited. I will keep my mind. I will keep this in the back of my mind. We'll come back to this Saturday, and we'll see what happens. You know what I'll try to do? I'll keep an eye on this over the course of, you know, us till Saturday. I'll try to update the Telegram if this happens. Because, again, outside of the streams, I don't really look at everything other than Bitcoin. So, you know what I mean? I always forget to look at these coins. Whenever I say I'll update the Telegram. But, yeah, we could see a consolidation here. We could see us manipulating downwards. We could see a distribution upwards towards $3.65, $3.60, wherever it is going to be exactly. Maybe towards $3.63 is what I'll say. But yes, other than that, we have CRO. Now, CRO came up a lot higher than I expected. Well, not expected, but we can see here. Okay, this kind of was all right. It wasn't that bad on the 1 hour anyway. We can see this was my line I drew. I don't know why I drew this. I think it was just one of the lines, whatever. So, you know, we were expanding upwards. Okay, this is actually really interesting. All the lines I drew, we actually used, kinda. We can see I didn't draw anything here. We came upwards. We used this line. We came downwards. Again, we're expanding upwards in this case. These are massive pumps. We expanded upwards. Massive gap here, by the way. We wicked past the high. I was like, oh well, we have a gap here, which obviously we filled. We can see here we filled it. We have a gap here. We probably use resistance. We might, you know, come down a bit and then whatever, continue upwards. But again, we are still in an uptrend, so to be expected. We use this gap and then we pumped up again. We're using that gap, and then you can see as well we've expanded upwards. We have another gap here. We've come to fill it, and now obviously, you know, the idea is we've come to fill it and we continue upwards. But what do we have? So I think I remember drawing. I'm gonna hide all this. I remember drawing a retracement on the monthly, maybe, where we had like the high. Whoops, we had the high to the low, and then we looked up. Okay, let me do the weekly because let me do this trend here. Because it's a bit ridiculous. So it's something like this. Again, it starts at this top, but it might not be perfect. But yeah, so you can kind of see it here. The optimum area for this retracement, I don't know why I didn't draw a retracement yesterday, which is really weird, is we have this old gap. We have optimum area here. We didn't really have much. Yes, okay, we had some gaps here. Not that strong. I mean, they are gaps to be fair, but optimum area is this area. So again, no gaps up here really. We could potentially have resistance in this candle. Again, we had this. We had a gap here, which we used in this candle. We then engulfed this candle. You can see. Okay, really nice TA here actually. We can see we dumped downwards. Gap here. Obviously came past lows, retraced up from this retracement to about, you know, this is about the midpoint here. We came up just about in the midpoint, filled this gap, produced a engulfing candle from this candle, last high before the move downwards, formed an order block, came downwards, actually failed this low, equal lows here by the way, really important, came upwards, found resistance at this midpoint, and then absolutely dumped, again taking these lows, but again didn't really matter because we continue to dump down. So what I will say about this is going to be a order block. I think it's still the last up close candle before the down move for a propulsion block as well. Might need to go update that actually. I think it's still the same thing. So I will actually draw this to bear that in mind. So we did have 2 points of interest. Major resistance in that move, and then this gap. So we've used this gap in this massive pump. You can see we fulfilled it pretty much to the T, about 37 cent, 39. But again, the move's been crazy. But you can see on the 15-minute, if you go to 1 hour even, we fulfilled this gap pretty much to the T. We've printed past this low. Yes, we did have this gap, and you know we have been in this uptrend. But if you look at all these previous moves, you know, massive move, retrace, massive move, slight retracement, massive move, retracement, massive move, retracement, massive, you know, move, kind of came down, move, and yes, we do have these gaps, but clearly you can see move up, move, or move down, move up, move down, move up, wicked past the high, didn't print, took liquidity, filled the gap, expanded. Difference here. Remember, this is what we looked at when Bitcoin was dumping. This is what we looked at when Bitcoin came past 124k and there was the final high. And I was like, why do I think this is different? Because we've expanded away. We can see we've wicked past this high. We failed to print past the high. We filled a higher time frame gap. We're above equilibrium on this wide range on the weekly, and we've expanded away. Yes, we do have gaps, and yes, we might use some support, and yes, we'll probably see support at 28 cent, at this 28.5, and yes, I am going to draw this retracement, and yes, we probably will see resistance at this 35 cent gap. We'll see resistance in this area. We will probably continue to do this. I don't think this is us dumping to 16 cent right now. If we go to the 4 hour. We can see we have hardly done a low. So what I will say about this is we clearly have a low around here to this high, and we can see we have these void candles. You can see gap, 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 never came back. We have this void at around 23 cents. So what I'm going to say about CRO is I think we could have a deep retracement towards that 22, 23 cent area, and probably another push up again. For CRO. And even though I was talking on the weekly, yes, okay, I am talking about the fact that we've had a move upwards to this area from the weekly, and in theory we should come past the low at 0.04 cents. I don't know. I mean, again, we've had a crazy pump, and this pump isn't only because of just normal price action, but this is a externality. This is something external from the market. This is crazy stuff for CRO. So yeah, just bear that in mind. But on the 1 hour, I think we could retrace up to 35 cents. But I think that is us. You can see, like, okay, this is kind of like a head and shoulders. This is a good example where. Why I think head and shoulders can exist is because of this. We have normal uptrend. We have this move, and all I think matters for a head and shoulders is the last move, is the high and then the right shoulder, if you will. I don't really care about this. I care about this because you have the high. You have, in this case, we have reason. We have a weekly resistance above equilibrium. We have weekly resistance. We have a reason to come down now. We've wicked past this high. And then we've started to expand away. And this expansion away is the difference. We have a massive expansion away. We have this range here coming up towards about 34, 35 cents in these gaps. And actually, no, I'm talking about, to be fair. We have two gaps, actually. And what I will say, on the 4 hour, the optimum gap is that range. But what I'll say on the 4 hour, the small gap we have is only sitting about there as well, which is actually this 1 hour gap. So what I will say actually is it could sit close towards 34 cents. But if you look at the general range, and again, we haven't really come up with this is a good void range. The midpoint is about 34 cents as well. So actually, I might not say 35.7. It might be closer to 34 cents. But somewhere in this range, we'll probably see the high clearly. And this is a very good gap here as well. This is the first gap as well before this move downwards. So this also could be a good gap. But anyway, you have these expansions away from this period, and then you come up and find resistance in these areas, and then come down. And this is how this head and shoulders form. It's because you form this resistance, and then you've come to a higher time frame point of interest. You've come to this higher time frame resistance, and then you start to dump past the lows, and then you're going to have that lower high resistance or lower high formed from this resistance, and then you're going to come down to these lows. And I think this is going to be us starting this 4 hour retracement from this low to this high, forming a higher low on the 4 hour, on the higher time frame, and then coming back above 38 cents. So this is what I'll probably say with CRO. I do think we are going to continue upwards and aim probably towards 44 cents towards this order block. That's it. I'm done. 24 minutes over. Everyone's left because they've got bored. I'm sorry. If you're still here, I know I've spent a lot of time talking. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you all. Tito, I'm going to send you the link. And I'll send you some messages and whatnot. But other than that, that is it. Hopefully the mic was good today. I have changed some settings. Hopefully it's not crap. It might be crap. I'm going to have to watch it back. But that's pretty much it. That's CRO, that's Syrup, that's Sui, that's Ethereum, that's Solana, that's Bitcoin. 6 coins. That's a lot for me, okay? I yap a lot about Bitcoin. So to have a lot of to have 6 coins is a lot. Kishan, the GOAT, appreciate you still being here. Genuinely, I really appreciate you still being here in the stream because I have talked for a long time. I know it's late for you, so extra special thank you to you, Kishan. Appreciate you a lot. Thank you for being here. I will see you again on Saturday, and I'll see you, all of you. And it was quite quiet on Binance Square. Good CA, thank you. I'm glad you find appreciation in it. Again, it's not financial advice. Again, trade as you will. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for you all for being here and for you being here. There is. Thank you, Kishan, for you still being here. I will see you on Saturday, which is only a day after next. Mike, I think Mike does Fridays. I think he has a break on Thursday. He might do Friday, he might not. He doesn't do weekends, obviously, but I will be back on Saturday to do some more TA. So again, CRO, Syrup, Sui, Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin. I will do them all again. Hopefully a bit faster this time. But I'm very interested to see about Sui, interested to see about CRO, Solana, and Ethereum. Bitcoin, I think we know what's going on with Bitcoin. I think across the board, apart from Bitcoin, I'm pretty interested to see how it goes on Saturday. So we will see. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate you all. I will see you Saturday. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your night. Goodbye.